She froze. Smoke curled under the door, curling into the bedroom like a living thing. Her stomach twisted. Her baby. She had to get out. Darius's laugh echoed from the hallway. "Don't bother, Naomi. It's over." Naomi pressed her hand to the floor, crawling through the choking haze. Every breath burned her lungs. Her mind screamed, "How could he do this? My husband? The man I trusted?" Then came the sound of a soft footstep, Evelyn's voice, calm but urgent. "Get up. I've got you." Naomi felt hands lift her, dragging her through the fire that should have ended her life. Her heart pounded as she realized. Survival was no longer a choice. It was her destiny. And that's where her story truly began. Before we dive deeper, please, if you're listening to this right now, I want to prove my mom wrong. She said I can't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter. Subscribe to King's Folklore, and let's keep breathing life into tales that refuse to die. Now let's continue. Smoke clawed at her lungs as Naomi crawled across the burning floor, her hands blistered, her hair singed. The flames were relentless, licking at the walls as if they knew she had to survive. Her baby kicked in her womb, a frantic, tiny reminder of everything Darius had tried to take from her. She could still hear his laughter echoing in the hallway, a cold, twisted sound that would haunt her forever. "Don't fight it, Naomi," he had whispered before leaving, a cruel smile on his face. "You and this child, gone. And then it's just me and Imani. Forever." Her tears burned as much as the smoke. Every instinct screamed to give up, to let the fire take her. But deep down, a spark refused to die. Not yet, not today. And then she heard it, a soft, steady voice cutting through the chaos. "Naomi, hold on." Evelyn. She was older, calm, and focused, with a presence that seemed impossible in the middle of death itself. Naomi could barely see her through the smoke, but she felt hands grip her arms, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. The world tilted, smoke and fire spinning around her, until finally she was outside, gulping fresh air that stung her lungs with every breath. Naomi collapsed onto the wet grass, coughing, shaking, overwhelmed by the sheer relief of still being alive. Evelyn knelt beside her, wrapping a damp blanket around her trembling body. "You're safe now," Evelyn said firmly. "I won't let him hurt you." Not anymore. Naomi wanted to believe her, but the betrayal ran too deep. How could the man she had loved, the father of her child, set their home on fire on her to be with another woman? How could he choose greed over life? "Why?" she croaked, voice hoarse. "Why would he do this?" Evelyn's eyes were soft, but her voice was steady. "Because some people don't understand love, Naomi. But you understand survival." The fire department had arrived moments later, but by then Naomi's house was already a blackened skeleton. Neighbors gathered, whispering, some pointing toward Darius, who had driven away hours before. No one knew the full story. No one knew the horror Naomi had endured or that she had survived. For the next few weeks, Naomi lived under Evelyn's care, healing physically and mentally. The fire had left scars not just on her skin, but deep inside her heart. Her body had survived, but her trust had been burned to ashes along with the house. Yet even in the darkness, Evelyn saw potential. "You're strong, Naomi. Stronger than him. Stronger than this," Evelyn said one evening as they sat by a small fire in her cabin. "But strength alone isn't enough. You need a plan. If you want to survive and thrive, you need to become someone else." Naomi stared into the flames, letting the heat remind her that even fire could forge something new. She had a choice: fade away like a forgotten ember, or rise stronger, smarter, sharper. I want to see him pay," she whispered, voice trembling but resolute. "I want to make sure he never hurts anyone else. Especially not my baby." Evelyn nodded. "And you will. But first, you need to disappear. Create a life that no one can trace back. Learn everything you can about fire, the way it moves, the way it can be controlled. Turn what almost killed you into your weapon." Months turned into years. Naomi became Nia Ward, a new identity, a new life, a new purpose. She trained with Evelyn, learning fire safety, investigation skills, and strategies to stay unseen. Every day she looked in the mirror and saw a woman reborn from ashes, carrying her scars like armor. And yet, the thought of her child, Harper, never left her. Evelyn assured her that Harper had been placed in a loving home after the fire. The child's existence became Naomi's anchor, a reminder that her survival wasn't just for her own sake, it was for the tiny life she had brought into the world, a life Darius had tried to erase. But even as she trained, she imagined Dallas. Her heart thumped whenever she thought about returning not as Naomi, the betrayed wife, but as Nia, the woman who had learned how to fight, how to survive, and how to reclaim what was stolen. "What would you do if this happened to you?" Evelyn asked one evening, handing her a stack of newspapers with stories of betrayal and survival. "Would you run, hide, or come back stronger?" Naomi clenched her fists. "I'd come back." "And when you do," Evelyn said, placing a hand on her shoulder, "make sure they see the fire coming before it burns them." The fire had taken her home, but it had not taken her spirit. It had not taken her purpose. Naomi, now Nia, was ready. Every scar was a reminder. Every memory, a map to the justice she would claim. She was burned, but not broken. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet determination whispered, "He will regret this. One day he will see me rise from the ashes, and there will be no escape." The first chapter of her new life had ended in fire, betrayal, and survival. But the next chapter, the one she would write herself, was just beginning. 4 years had passed, but the memory of that night never faded. Naomi was gone. In her place was Nia Ward, confident, poised, and unrecognizable, carrying the scars of fire and betrayal like badges of survival. Dallas had changed. But one thing hadn't. Darius. He was running for city council now, parading Imani by his side, flaunting the life he had stolen. Nia's heart tightened every time she saw his face on posters or in the news, but she didn't hesitate. Every lesson Evelyn had taught her, every strategy they'd practiced, every ounce of pain she had endured, now served a single purpose: justice. Her first step was to infiltrate Darius's world without raising suspicion. A sleek, professional persona, Nia Ward was introduced as a consultant for campaign events, a name and face that nobody could trace back to Naomi. She smiled, shook hands, and played the part perfectly. Darius, busy with speeches and interviews, barely noticed her at first. Imani, however, had sharper instincts. From the moment Nia arrived at the campaign office, her eyes lingered too long, her gaze a subtle probe into Nia's background. Nia noticed the scrutiny, but she didn't flinch. She had rehearsed this for years. Every move, every glance, every word was calculated. "What do you think of the campaign so far?" Nia asked Darius one afternoon, leaning casually over a stack of flyers. Her voice was calm, conversational, exactly what it needed to be. Darius barely glanced at her, muttering, "Fine, fine. Just make sure the volunteers are coordinated." She nodded, concealing the storm behind her eyes. Beneath the surface, she was studying him, noting his habits, his arrogance, the way he underestimated everyone around him. Every detail mattered. But Nia's mission wasn't just about observation. She had another, even deeper goal: finding her daughter, Harper. The thought of her child's face, the child she had carried through the fire and fought to survive for, never left her. She had to know Harper was safe. She had to plan for the moment they could reunite. Late nights in her small rented apartment became research sessions. Nia dug into Darius's financials, past dealings, and Imani's suspicious connections. Every discovery fueled her resolve. She found inconsistencies, whispered rumors, and traces of the greed-driven schemes that had destroyed her old life. But danger was never far. Imani hired Silas, a private investigator, after noticing subtle inconsistencies in Nia's story. He dug deep, determined to expose her true identity. Nia sensed the net tightening and tightened her own defenses. Evelyn's training had prepared her for this. Stealth, deception, and patience. Every interaction became a chess game, every smile a calculated move. One evening, Silas cornered her in a dimly lit parking garage. You're hiding something, he growled, stepping closer. I know who you are. Naomi. Naomi Ward. Nia's heart raced, but her expression stayed calm. I think you've got the wrong person, she said softly, masking the terror and adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had been in fires before. She could survive this too. The confrontation escalated, but Evelyn arrived just in time, intercepting Silas with authority and experience. She had anticipated this move. In the shadows of the garage, a subtle struggle ended with Silas retreating, warnings left in his wake. Nia exhaled, adrenaline fading into a grim smile. The hunt was on for truth, for justice, for closure. What would you do if you were me? Nia asked herself in the mirror that night, tracing the faint scars along her arms. Risk everything for the truth? Or stay hidden forever? She knew the answer. She couldn't hide. Not when Darius and Imani had taken everything from her. Her daughter, her home, her trust. They had tried to erase her. But Nia was clever, prepared, and patient. And patience, she had learned, was her deadliest weapon. Each day brought her closer to the truth, closer to confronting the people who had burned her life to the ground. But it also tested her. Imani grew suspicious, asking questions, watching her too closely. Every casual smile, every passing remark in the campaign office, became a delicate balance of acting normal while gathering evidence. And through it all, Nia never forgot Harper. Every detail, every discovery, every calculated step was guided by love, fierce, unyielding, protective. Harper's safety was Nia's anchor, and one day, she vowed, nothing would stop their reunion. As Nia lay awake that night, watching the city lights glimmer against the darkness, she whispered a vow to herself. I will expose them. I will reclaim my life. And no fire, literal or metaphorical, will stop me from protecting my child. The stage was set. The players were in place. And the woman who had once been Naomi, burned, but unbroken, was ready to ignite a plan that Darius and Imani would never see coming. Every campaign event, every handshake, every campaign speech now served her mission. Nia Ward had returned not as a victim, but as a force of nature, quiet, calculated, and unstoppable. The countdown had begun. The night air was thick with anticipation as Nia walked into the grand hall where Darius's campaign gala was underway. Crystal chandeliers reflected off polished marble floors, a stark contrast to the fire that had once consumed her home. Darius was smiling, shaking hands, charming donors, completely unaware that the woman he had tried to destroy was standing steps away, watching every move. Imani's gaze, however, was sharper. From the moment Nia arrived, the tension had been palpable. Something about her presence unsettled Imani, though she couldn't place exactly what. Nia's heart raced as she scanned the room. Cameras flashed, laughter echoed, and yet her mind remained focused. Every step, every word, every glance, a calculated move toward justice. Evelyn was nearby, blending into the crowd, ready to intervene if things went wrong. Finally, the moment came. Nia approached Darius under the guise of congratulating him. She smiled politely, her eyes locking onto his. Mr. Darius, impressive turnout tonight, she said smoothly. You've built quite the reputation in 4 years. Darius chuckled, unaware. Thank you, Nia. Glad to have you here. We could use someone with your skills on the campaign. It was time. Nia let the mask slip, her voice sharper now, dripping with the weight of years of pain and preparation. Skills? Funny you mention that. You should know the person you're speaking to isn't just anyone. I am Naomi Ward. The room froze. Glasses clinked in the background. Conversations halted. Darius's face went pale. A mix of disbelief and panic crossing his features. Imani's eyes widened, and for the first time, fear replaced her smug confidence. You, Darius stammered. That fire, it was supposed to kill me. Nia finished for him. Her gaze was unflinching, every scar a testament to her survival. And yet here I am, alive, watching you live a lie, Imani lunged, a mix of rage and desperation in her movement, attempting to strike Nia. But Evelyn was faster, intercepting her with precision, holding her at bay. "This ends tonight," Evelyn said, her voice calm but firm, echoing through the hall. Darius tried to run, but Nia had anticipated every move. Police, tipped off discreetly earlier by Evelyn, arrived moments later. The campaign hall became a storm of sirens, flashing lights, and chaos as Darius and Imani were arrested. Nia stood in the middle of the hall, catching her breath. Relief, triumph, and a touch of sorrow mixed within her. She had reclaimed her life. But there was one more step. One more life to restore. Evelyn led her to a waiting car. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. "Harper is waiting." Tears pricked Nia's eyes as she nodded. "I've waited too long." They drove through the quiet streets of Dallas, every passing light a reminder that life went on but hers would never be the same. When they arrived at the small house where Harper had been living with her adoptive parents, the moment was almost surreal. The door opened, and there she was, Harper, now 4 years old, with the same eyes that had haunted Naomi's dreams. The little girl froze for a moment, uncertain, before recognition sparked. "Mommy?" Harper whispered, her voice trembling. Nia dropped to her knees, opening her arms. "Yes, baby. It's me. I'm here. I've come for you." Harper ran into her arms, the embrace filled with the weight of years lost and found. Tears streamed down Nia's face as she held her daughter tightly, whispering promises she had carried in her heart for 4 long years. Later, at the trial, Nia testified with courage and clarity, recounting the betrayal, the fire, and the survival that had defined her journey. Darius and Imani were convicted, their lives forever marked by the consequences of their greed and cruelty. Nia didn't stop there. Inspired by her own journey, she established the Phoenix Center, a sanctuary for survivors of trauma. A place where people could rise from the ashes of their own lives, just as she had. And in quiet moments, with Harper asleep in her arms, Nia would touch the scars that had once seemed like a curse and now felt like proof of her strength. She had survived fire, betrayal, and darkness, and in doing so, had found a life worth living, a family restored, and a purpose reborn. "What would you do if you had to rise from ashes?" she whispered to herself, smiling at the little girl who now represented hope itself. The fire had taken much, but it had not taken her spirit. And that spirit, strong, relentless, and unbroken, was hers to carry forward, lighting the way for herself and others. Moral of the story: Naomi's journey reminds us that even in the darkest moments, resilience can ignite the path forward. Betrayal, pain, and fire had threatened to consume her, but she rose stronger, wiser, and filled with purpose. Life may challenge you, break you, or scar you, but every scar carries a story of survival and hope. Naomi reclaimed her life, reunited with her daughter, and turned trauma into a force for good. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from King's folklore. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway, we'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep the stories alive. Thanks for watching.